We just went through Mission Impossible 1 through 7, including the director's commentaries, to get you the best tricks for filmmaking and storytelling, and what we found was insane. Some of their advice is genius, but some of it, if you don't use it right, could make your project self-destruct. Welcome to Film Club. Today we're going to dive into cinema making secrets from the Mission Impossible series, especially the ones we used on our award-winning films here in Japan, because if they saved our films, they might just save yours. Warning, there will be spoilers. But whether you're a big budget or no budget filmmaker like us, every film has its own challenges. So if you want to make movies Mission Impossible style, you have to learn to use limitations to ignite creativity. We were shocked after the fact to realize Mission Impossible 1 doesn't even have any gunfights. Tom Cruise doesn't shoot a gun. And yet they found ways to enhance the story and the action through things like high-tech glasses and spy gear, evasive maneuvers to get away from the enemy, and even explosive chewing gum to blow up a helicopter at the end of the movie. Even the famous scene where Tom Cruise and his team break into the CIA is done almost completely without dialogue and is almost 15 minutes long. That is impressive creative storytelling. Our entire film series here in Japan was actually made without dialogue, including our crime drama hit list, so we had to rely on things like dramatic action and visuals to communicate our story. So embrace your limitations and watch your story come alive in ways you never thought possible. But even if your movie has a lot to explain, filmmaking is still a visual medium, so it always helps if you can visualize your exposition. Mission Impossible is famous for using its mission briefings to visually get us caught up on the mission before the character goes. It's interesting, creative, and it keeps us in the world and genre of the film. But maybe your story has a lot of plot twists you need to convey to your character and audience. You can always use visuals to emphasize truth and lies. You've probably heard the storytelling expression of show, don't tell. Check out this scene from Mission Impossible 1, where there are two truths being told in the scene, one through words, one through visual flashback, and the audience just instinctively understands that what we see is probably what's true, and it's what triggers Ethan's suspicion that his boss is lying to him. Visuals have power over words every time. But whether you're writing with words or visuals, make sure you write for your genre. There's a lot of mixed opinions about Mission Impossible 2, and some people might criticize that it feels a little disjointed. Well, most summer blockbusters are 2 hours long, and the original cut of Mission Impossible 2 was 3 hours and 30 minutes long, so probably should have kept it to a 2-hour running time, and you wouldn't have had to lose all of that story information. Write for your summer blockbuster and don't lose all that critical story info. But maybe you've got your running time sorted out, and when you're writing, you just need a spark to light the fuse of your ideas. John Woo loves listening to music when he's writing his scenes, everything from classical, jazz, rock and roll, to get in the mood and get inspired as he's visualizing his story. And he even used music when he was designing his action sequences, and sometimes would even play music for the actors to help them get in the zone making the film. In a way, you can kind of use music like a writing and filmmaking partner for your process. But maybe your story's solid and all these different pieces just feel impossible to pull off. Well, sometimes we need to embrace the cinematic puzzle. Directors and editors are still amazed with movie magic when you can combine shots from days, months, or even years later to create a cohesive scene. And some of the shots from Mission Impossible 3 were shot in 3 completely different locations, everything from the Paramount backlot, Fontana, California, to downtown LA, and everything works seamlessly to pull off the scene. We ended up shooting footage for one simple scene in 3 completely different cities, Osaka, Nara, and Kyoto, and the scene is still only 60 seconds long. It might feel a little weird on location, but if it works for your story, it works, and that's kind of the fun of it. But maybe you feel like your genre or story's been done a million times, and you want to put a creative spin on it. Just be bold and trust your creative voice. Mission Impossible 1, 2, and 3 all feel completely different, and that's by design. They wanted the directors to express themselves creatively, so you've got J.J. Abrams' director trademarks like lens flares and intense close-ups, and you've even got a rising helicopter behind the hero before it shoots him down, just like he does in Star Trek Into Darkness. Nobody can make a movie quite like you. Be bold and trust your creative voice. Another thing you can do that doesn't require blowing up a helicopter is to clap the like button so we can help other filmmakers, storytellers, and new friends like you. But really, what if you've got your creative voice down and your script is still confusing and you don't know what to tell your actors and crew? Sometimes story can be a moving target. Mission Impossible 4 was Brad Bird's first live-action film, and he found out the hard way that a lot of Mission Impossible films are basically an amalgamation and montage of ideas and action sequences that they put together by doing rewrites and reshoots all at the last minute. The crazy thing is, he found out this was normal on Mission Impossible films. For example, in Mission Impossible 7, they only had one chance to shoot at the airport, so they just had Tom Cruise saying lines like, "probably," and "no comment," and then went back to shoot all the safe house scenes later with reshoots and rewrites. In Mission Impossible 3, the famous scene where Tom Cruise swings from one building to another, dialogue was being written on the day by J.J. Abrams. That's totally insane. But the problem is Brad Bird comes from Pixar Animation, and in animation, you're planning sometimes for years before your film goes into production. So he thought, I can't direct these actors or crew without understanding answers to these questions. So they call in filmmaker Chris McQuarrie, who comes in as an undercover writer. They answer the questions, work out the story structure and loose ends, and then all of a sudden, Brad Bird can direct with confidence and excitement for where this movie needs to go. So if you're in a situation like Brad Bird, pause to clear the deck, answer all those questions, and you can direct with confidence. But what if your script is tight and you've just got some action or complicated scenes you're nervous about filming? It never hurts to rehearse any way that you can. To do the crazy tower climbing stunt in Mission Impossible 4, they knew they had to practice it right. But how do you do it when the building's 124 floors high and Tom Cruise is 2,700 feet above the ground? Well, they created a mock set so they could practice all the movement. Tom could build up muscle memory for the stunt that he was going to perform before they shot the scene. But even if you're a low-budget or no-budget filmmaker like us, sometimes all you need is a simple space where you can lay out the arrangement of your furniture, where the actors are going to stand, to work out the scene so that you're not as nervous going into it. For our film Eraser, we actually did that at a coffee shop and even went outside to a park just to see how the blocking was going to work before we filmed the scene. That took so much pressure off and helped us go in with confidence. But what if you shot everything perfectly and you just don't know if the scene works? You can always edit for your eyes only. Brad Bird's amazing advice is a sequence is going to work if it makes sense without sound. So they tested that with everything from the hallway screen gadget scene to the car park fight with Tom and the villain, and even with the building climbing stunt, everything was tested without sound, and then everything from sound, dialogue, and music takes the action to the next level. But besides Brad Bird, filmmaker Chris McQuarrie also likes to rely on visuals. So he doesn't even edit with any temp score. He figures if you're going to replace it anyway, you might as well rely on your story to find your internal pacing and visual flow before you bring in the music. But what if a sequence is working and you just need to add more personality? You can always use character intros to enrich your story. Like Rebecca Ferguson, right after she sets down the needles, we turn to reveal this mysterious person. And in MI4, Tom Cruise's face is revealed at just the decisive moment when he turns around in the prison. In MI3, the movie opens with the villain interrogating and torturing Tom Cruise, so the entire film you're just terrified of this guy from the first impression. But what if the scene is just as you wrote on paper and you're just not getting the performances you want? It might be less about your words and more about how you're directing your team. In the scene where Rebecca Ferguson's character is stuck between her two organizations, Chris McQuarrie wasn't quite getting the performance he wanted and realized that if he went by the camera and spoke with a softer, more calm voice, she went from having a more aggressive tone to a more vulnerable performance. As a director, it's not just what you say, but how you say it, and that can affect your tone and overall atmosphere on your movie set. But another thing that affects the tone and atmosphere of your story is how you open your movie. Not only does your opening establish the genre and tone of your film, it can serve a lot of story functions if you use it right. The opening of MI6 does this right away, where we can see that Ethan Hunt is afraid of losing his loved ones, afraid of the enemy from the last film, and as the tension of the story builds up, it seems like his dark dreams are actually becoming a reality. The opening is also an epic setup for the enemy capture sequence, where we visualize exactly how it's supposed to go, but through Tom's imagination, so it's filled with fear and dread that lives are going to be lost. And yes, all of this is done visually, without dialogue or sound, before Tom snaps out of it as if he's waking up from a dream. But like every good heist movie, filmmaking is bound to go wrong sometimes, so we all have to embrace imperfections during production. So you would think if MI6 was filmed in IMAX and had a $178 million budget, everything would have to be really high quality and perfect, right? Well, it wasn't. For example, in the shootout with Alec Baldwin, they weren't really happy with him having a silent death, so they had him send over the word go, and it was recorded on an iPhone. In the scene where Ethan wakes up at the end, some of the shots are out of focus, but the director and editor knew that it was best to use the right performance. And the best imperfection in the movie is the one that no one notices, where in the last shot of the scene, Tom Cruise is speaking and the camera runs out of film, so there's a flicker in the shot, and they actually just worked it into the credits as a special effect. That is genius editing and an epic workaround. But let's say you've got plenty of film to shoot with and you just need to get a straightforward scene to the next level. You can always use visuals to guide your scene. For example, in Mission Impossible 7, instead of using a wide shot to establish geography, they're passing around a key. And the key helps orient the audience to the position of the characters, as well as motivate the dialogue while we get the exposition. And the visuals work amazing with conflict attached. So when the bad guy puts his knives on the table, we're oriented to the geography of the characters, and it creates tension and suspense throughout the entire scene. But what if you've got some long scenes, like 10 or 15 minutes long, and you have a lot of exposition inside? Chris McQuarrie talks about learning this lesson on Top Gun Maverick, where the scene at the bar is really long and has tons of exposition, so we took that one scene and broke it into parts. You've got Tom Cruise recapping things at the bar, and then the students walk in as they talk more about the mission, and then Tom Cruise gets thrown outside, which gives us a completely different point of view for the flashback with Goose and Rooster. In Mission Impossible 7, the government briefing starts as a mysterious figure enters the building, and then as Kittredge is revealed, the mysterious figure enters the room and is watching the details unfold. And then when the smoke goes off and Tom is revealed to be the person in the room, he takes over control and the story goes to him. By breaking your scene up into parts, you can take your audience on a journey to absorb story information through the evolution of the scene. But maybe the best advice from Chris McQuarrie is, your film truly depends on your team. Every department relies on each other to make a movie great, so respect and appreciate the team around you. Filmmaking pushes all of us to the limit, so we have to work together to succeed on every mission to get your movie made and story told. But before you light the fuse on your next big blockbuster, you're gonna wanna watch this video to step up your storytelling and take your cinematic game to the next level.